We have 10 minutes. The Parshat Bereishit, which we're reading now, this is the end of the month of Tishrei, which this is the beginning of the year, has a special teaching for the whole month. One of the teachings it has is the first commandment which God gave to man is don't eat from the tree. Don't eat from the tree. Not so hard. Like it's understood from, second, let me go back to here. Like it's understood from the Midrash, that this commandment to Adam not to eat from the tree was only on the first day of creation. Man was created on Friday, right? It was only on that day. It says it was even also 3 hours before the end of the day. It was only for the first day. If he would have just been able to hold out, he would have been able to eat from this tree. And from these details, it comes out that Zexten Tag, on the 6th day of the creation, the day when man was created, it comes out that this commandment to man that he should not eat from the tree was only for 3 hours. 3 hours before Shabbos, he got the commandment not to eat. If he could have waited for Shabbos, he would have been able to eat. The Eibishter's, the God's commandment came in what's called the 9th hour. 9th hour is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 9 hours in the day. 9 hours after sunrise. And these 3 hours later, when the day would have ended, Shabbat would have come in, and it was Shabbat as the prohibition would have been taken away. So all Adam had to do, and he heard directly from God. It's not us, we heard it from a rabbi. He heard it directly from God, and Abraham and Adam knew he was created by God. He wasn't even there, right? A few hours earlier. Nevertheless, Adam could not hold himself back and ate from the tree. We can ask ourselves a question. Adam Rishon was what's called Yetzer Kapav Shel Kodesh Baruch Hu. He was the handiwork of God. And Adam, he heard the commandment directly from God. Wie kommt es? How can it possibly be that he could not hold himself back for 3 hours? How could it possibly be? All he had to do was just follow this commandment not to eat from the tree. Hold yourself back for 3 hours, such a difficult thing. And the fact is, he didn't. Emistak, it's true that in this sin of the tree of knowledge, there were a lot of secrets of the Torah. A lot of secrets of the Torah. Adam was created by man. This is a big mystery. If you remember, we learned 2 days ago when we're learning, at 3 o'clock, we learned the portion of the Torah, that the Ramban, he asked the same question as Rashi. He's explaining the question of Rashi. Why does the Torah start off with the creation of the world? It should have started off with the first commandment. But the Ramban explains it a little bit differently. He says that what did you have to start at the Torah with the creation of the world? Nobody understands it. It's a thing that can only be understood according to Kabbalah. Why write such a thing in the Torah? Why does it have to be there? Write the simple commandments. You want to write mysterious things? Put them in a little history, a little later on, right? It says in the 10 Commandments that keep Shabbos because God created the world in 6 days. So you know that God created the world, right? And constantly God is saying to Moses, I'll give you the land that I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then you want to know who Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is. You look in the Kabbalah books and you look in other books. It's a big mystery. So everything really in the beginning of the Torah is just pure mystery. The fact is everything in the Torah is a mystery. But the other things at least are a little bit understood. The stories here are totally not understandable. If so, the story of Adam, God created Adam and he gave him this commandment This is really not understandable. He gave him a simple commandment. You got all these other trees in the garden. You can eat from any tree you want. Just this one tree, hold off for 3 hours. He wasn't hungry. He wasn't starving. Somebody says, nevertheless, it's true that there's a lot of secrets here, but the Torah, the simple meaning of the Torah is the simple meaning. There really was a person called Adam. There really was a person called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This also represents on spiritual levels very high things. But the fact is, how could it be that Adam did not hold himself back for 3 hours? And he heard directly from God. The answer is like this. The lesson is like this. The whole intention of the Yetzer Hora, which God created the Yetzer Hora also, right? God created the evil impulse, selfish impulse, destructive impulse, if you want to call it. The whole reason that God gave us this thing, this opposition, is so that a person should do the opposite of what God wants. How does the Yetzer Hora do it? It gives all sorts of ideas and feelings. Especially, it says that if a person transgresses and does a sin, and he doesn't do any commandments, doesn't do what God wants, so it says, listen, it's too difficult. It's a terrible test. And therefore, the Yetzer Hora says, take it easy. Don't resist. Don't defy the world. There's a oisen blois einzach. But the Yetzer Hora doesn't say don't do anything about what God wants. It picks one particular thing. That a person should transgress one particular desire of God. Therefore, the more important a commandment is to a person, whether it's because of the person, whether it's because of the place, whether it's because of the time, the more important something is, the more the Yetzer Hora works on a person to take his mind off of it, think about something else, maybe worry about your reputation, your health, maybe you want to be friends, your future. The greater the necessity of doing this commandment or withholding from doing a sin, as the größer seinen, the anstrengen, the greater is the opposition that the Yetzer Hora makes to makes that a person should not do the commandment, to prevent the person. And because the truth is that the person can ganz lichten, Mike Mekayim, then the fact of the matter is the person easily could do the commandment, because, like we said before, if a person makes up his mind, he can. But the Yetzer Hora controls your mind, because doing the commandment is very, very important. So it comes the Yetzer Hora with all sorts of reasons and impulses that he shouldn't allow the person to do what's really important to do. Right? A lot of times we find incredible things, right? People, they take money, they lie, they cheat. And in the government, in the Israeli government, there's people that, they're proud. They sit with a big kippah on their head, and they do things that you just, they agree to not, because it's for their own party, because it's for their own benefit, they have good reasons. Not that they don't have good reasons, but it ends up, everyone feels temporarily also by himself that there are things in your life which, in as far as Judaism goes, doing Torah and mitzvahs, which are, according to his logic, should be much easier to do than other things which are connected to tremendous difficulties and effort. A person feels by himself that the simple things as davka de gringa inyanim kumenim an der schwer. Suddenly he feels that these simple things are very difficult, right? Let's just take a simple example, putting on tefillin. A person wants to put on tefillin, all of a sudden the phone rings, all of a sudden something happens, right? And it's the last minute of the day he puts on tefillin. The next day, he says, listen, I waited until the last minute. Today I'll wait till the last minute. And all of a sudden, oh, I forgot. And then he forgets another day. And then maybe he remembers, but then he forgets a few more days. And all of a sudden, 10 years passed, and the guy never put on tefillin. 20 years passed, especially when does this happen in the army? In the army. It used to be much more of a concerted effort from the army. The army used to be, Israeli army, used to be a vehicle for taking people away from Torah and mitzvahs. And how did they do it? By keeping a person busy all the time. So you didn't have time to, if you want to put on tefillin, you got to wake up a little early in the morning, but then you're really tired. So you wake up a little late one day, and no big deal. All of a sudden he discovers 2 years passed, 3 years passed, he didn't put on tefillin one day. And then he goes with his friends for a trip, and his friends are the same thing, and they also don't put on tefillin over there, and that's it, right? And then he becomes easy. Who says Shabbos is a special day? Shabbos is like any other. Who knows when Shabbos is? Maybe it becomes easier for him to, all of a sudden the things which should be really easy, all of a sudden become hard. The reason for this is, like we said before, that these things which a person has difficulty to do, and these are things which are more important to him and more essential to his soul. On this, the Yetzer Hara makes all sorts of tricks and makes all sorts of preventions that a person shouldn't do it, as will continue, God willing, tomorrow. Okay, my friends, I should have made the thing yesterday, but I didn't.